Hello guys and welcome to a new Wargame video today by me, Vulcan. You'll be happy to know we're back onto the replays. I will be bringing one of these every Friday once again, and my tutorials will be continuing on Mondays. So anyway, I'm playing today with Letark on a 2v2 and we're both playing Pact this time. I don't bring enough Pact videos, and a lot of you asked for the Pact tutorials, and considering I'm not going to do them until I finish the NATO ones, I decided to do a Pact gameplay instead and made use of a various amount of units. So hopefully this will give you a good insight into how I play Pact. So I'm going to put it to my point of view, and I'm really going to talk about what me and my friend Letark did well and what we didn't do so well and how we won, because so basically I start off with this UAZ, a book and 2 Colossus. The UAZ was actually a mistake. I basically forgot to get rid of it. They started the game very quickly, and you'll see if I just quickly speed up the deployment that I don't get as many units as I'd probably like on the battlefield. So I managed to get my startup stuff. I'm using 3 SPW 40Bs at the moment for my starting recon, and you're probably wondering why, because they're not very good. You can see they don't have that great recon, they have only good optics. But what I do with them is I basically spread them out and basically push them down the map into the key position. So I'd send one into the town, one just up in the middle in the forests, and one on the left all the way down round to Bravo. That way I can basically suicide these units. They're basically like 20 points each, and you can see they're basically just little trucks with machine guns on them. They're nothing special. But I suicide them into the enemy just to get the intel I need to be able to react properly to what's happening. And you'll see they help throughout the game. So anyway, these 2 Colossus help the Book M1 stay supplied throughout the battle. The Book M1 actually has 4 missiles, but each missile is I think about 250 supply. And both of these Colossus together have 2,500 supply. So it can basically keep this thing supplied throughout the battle. I've also got 2 Colossus to go with the UAZ Conquers, but the UAZ Conquers fast move round to the left here, and then basically they get split up and I have to use these Conquers separately. So you can see I've sent 1 SPW down the middle, that's heading straight towards the middle of the map. I've got another one heading towards this forest, I believe, and another one heading towards this forest. And I've got my BRDM-2U on the left moving into Anna, and 4 Scots with Spadahorniager going up to Bravo to sort of do a little flanking maneuver. I've got a couple of quad auto cannon units, the ZSU Beruzia? I have no idea, but anyway, they're both 2 quad auto cannon units, and they are going to be hiding in this town. So basically what I do, or what I tend to do, is I stick my BRDM-2U in around this sort of area here. Then I can put my couple of AA units really close by, and if anything comes into range of it, it would literally get shot down instantly by the quad auto cannon. So that's also a good thing. But you can see here, because I didn't have enough time really, I have to bring in a few units late, and these are Iglas. Now Iglas are probably one of the most overpowered units for Pact side. They're very cheap. But before I even worry about them, we've got a Weasel Rush coming down the middle. Now these are APCs with really good auto cannons that are super overpowered, and this level 100 guy here, Mr. Jukes, decides it's a good idea to try and test our defense a little bit with them. Now in reaction, I had to pull my UAZ Conquerors back and then use the ATGMs to continue to fire towards them. Also, I brought in a couple of Havocs with my spare points to really counter this push. If I can stay at a distance with the ATGMs, my ATGMs will be able to snipe most of these Weasel without them doing sufficient damage. However, they did catch Letark's units out, and he did lose his Motor Chelsea and the APCs they came in, unfortunately, which kind of set us back on points at the beginning. Also on the right here, use skirmishing with chasseurs in buildings, probably not a great idea. Buildings give you a massive defense bonus, and if you're pushing towards buildings without having sufficient recon, you're going to lose. And I think those smirches just can't really do enough damage. The only way you're really going to do well against infantry is if you have them spotted and you fire at them from a distance with either arty or tanks, or if you have flame units. That's the only way you're really going to flush them out. So anyway, you can see I've managed to keep all my stuff alive. My Havocs are still trying to take out as many toes as they can. My Conkers are wasting up their ammo, and my 2 Kolos, which originally split left, are now coming back to fill them up again. So, not really realising that I kept this UAZ, I move it into this forest just for safety. Letark had already said that he would keep his back, so that wasn't so much of a problem, although I was concerned that his command vehicle wasn't armoured. Now, yeah, mine was just a mistake, so eventually I move it into Dimitri, or Delta. And, well, this MI9 keeps the area sort of scouted throughout the battle. My Scots with Spadahranija, I've got all the way up to Charlie. So we're doing reasonably well at the moment, but this game lasts for about 30 minutes, and it was probably one of the funnest games I've had in a little while. I haven't managed to play much, but seeing this rocket artillery in, I try and warn the Tark as quickly as possible with a defense beacon, but luckily the rocket barrage is in a completely wrong place and hits the edge of the forest further away from the actual command armor itself. So also, what does help is that he has these Urals fixing it up after it does get a rocket shot nearby. But luckily, because it's an armoured vehicle, this BRM-1K is an armoured vehicle, it can stay alive. Those BRM-1Ks are the only command vehicle, I think, with a cannon. It actually comes with like a BMP cannon on it, which is pretty cool, but I wouldn't recommend using them because they just cost so much points. The BRM... Well, the BDRM-2U, I believe, is the best packed command vehicle in the game. You can see here I've landed my Havocs near these 2 Colosses, kind of taking the supplies off the books. That was basically so that I didn't have to move them back in case he attacked with his Weasels again. You can see here my SPW-40B is rushing up this road, reveals these Chaparrals and a few armoured vehicles in Foxtrot. So it gives my UAZs a few things to fire at, but unfortunately my SPW-40B doesn't survive long enough to do enough damage. And you can see here they're all Vet 2 at the moment, which is awesome. Now, obviously at some point, one of the enemies saw my infantry pushing up on the left, and he does counter it with a ton of Gazelle cannons. Now it's quite good to do against light units or light APCs like these Scots, but if they come in any APCs with their own autocannons, for instance, the cannon Gazelles might actually lose out in that case. Anyway, here he manages to destroy all of the APCs and a couple of squads of Spadahranija, but unfortunately for him, he forgets to take out the rest. Now, while I was concentrating on that, I managed to spot this rocket barrage coming, and I did warn Letark again about moving his command armor, but this time they fire at his defensive troops, the T-55AMs, and we spotted this massive push coming down on the right here. I believe Letark spotted it earlier, but I didn't believe him in terms of how many units were actually coming. But what really went well was that he brought in a lot of tanks behind the enemy once they pushed straight past Elena. What would have been a good idea for this player to do is push into that there and take out the command vehicle, but instead he drives straight past and goes for our main base, which is completely pointless in this case because it leaves him trapped, and especially when my Havocs come back to support this, it kind of leaves him out in the open. And you can see I brought in an extra Havoc just to take care of stuff. So I'm really halting his advance here. The Tarks brought in some BTR-60s from these Strellas that he's dropped off before the battle started, and he's also got some UAZ faggots and SPG-9s to help out. Meanwhile, these T-34-85s are coming down the back. So anyway, like I said, the units should have pushed into Elena, but they didn't, so that kind of fucked up his strategy a lot there and lost him out on a lot of points. Now, seeing my Havocs there, this killer Epping guy on the other team tries to push these Gazelles that originally were shooting at those Spadohornierja all the way down to try and pick off my Havocs, and you can see they're chasing them because they arc towards them. So what I do is I use that to bait them straight into the middle of my book. Now my book, having splash damage, manages to kill 2 units with 1 shot, and because they're in 2-man squads and hovering in the middle of a bunch of units, they're getting easily shot down by my Iglas and my book. My Iglas came in from the right. I reinforced them while this push was going on, and that's what originally discovered them. And then Letark brought in his extra T-34-85s to help out. So these BTR-60 PAIs actually do a lot of damage. They just sort of sit there and pepper the enemy throughout this entire battle. It's a freaking epic battle. If I go right down into it, look how much shit's going on. Everything's routing because so much stuff's dying around them. It's just chaos. It really is. They just don't know what to do, and all of their units just are so scared, with all his T-34-85s just smashing away at the enemy. It's just crazy. They just tear shit up. Now what was really good about this was how fast we managed to react about it, and we kind of made like a reactive defense. Something that's really good against these kind of rushes is you sort of let them get past your defenses, but then you sort of smother them by... So for instance, they're coming down this road. If you just follow my mouse, they're coming down this road in a long line like they were. There's 2 things you can do. Say you have a defensive line, you let them push through that defensive line, and you have units in the back, and then you sort of like make a circle around them. That's sort of what we've done here. You can see we've got units all around them, and we kind of crush them in the middle, slowly picking off the rest of the troops now. But what also you can do is when they're pushing down, you form like a semicircle in front of the rush, and therefore when they manage to get to the defensive line in the middle of the semicircle, around where the road is, you just pull those units back and make basically a wall on each side, which just absolutely hammers a rush. And if it's not controlled properly on the enemy team, you can just destroy it. It's one of those things that have to be controlled well, and this one certainly wasn't, and really gave us a lot of points. You can see that we've managed to pick up 1,375 points so far, a lot of that being from that rush, and they've only got 574 points. Throughout this game they use numerous artillery, and I believe that is one of the big reasons why they actually lost this game. As you can see, they do use their rocket artillery throughout the game, and they do pick off a few units here and there, but they also have a ton, and I mean a ton, of howitzers by the end of this game. And it's one thing that I really didn't think they needed. They just needed units that could really counter my stuff. Now at this point I see this one Chaparral, and they have a lot of other units here. So what I decided to do is I try and pick off this Chaparral as quickly as possible. Chaparrals only vetted twice aren't going to do too much damage, but I'm very naive here. What happens is when I go to attack his Chaparral, I forget to split them up. Like, they were in 2 separate squads, but what happened was they went to the same place because I told them to attack the same target. Now, because of that, I lost 2 Havocs instead of 1, and that was a terrible trade right there. Never do that. Basically, the splash damage from a Chaparral really badly affected my Havoc. Now this book, if you're wondering, is actually fully vetted, and it does manage to snipe one of his super Chinooks, which try and come in and resupply some of his vehicles. And that was another good thing. But unfortunately, because it's revealed its position, these vetted Weasel APCs do a ton of damage to it and just wipe it out so quickly. Because I lost that Havoc earlier, or those two Havocs earlier, I do bring in a spare, which I use to pick off the rest of these weasels. I shouldn't have probably taken it as close, and you can see I'm aware of that by the way I pull it back rather quickly. But I really just want to finish it off, because it is threatening my UAZ at the moment. Now fortunately, as it's just about to get close, the ATGM snipes it straight in the back. But I do pull the UAZ even further, even though it wasn't really necessary after that Havoc had taken out the weasel. But you can see I move it straight back in and capture it again. So here's all of the stuff that Letark brought in. Plenty of T-34-85s, T-72Gs. These T-34s are really good for stopping rushes. And that's one thing that I really liked about Letark playing with me, is he really knew how to react to a lot of the things that happen during the game. He's also got this T-80B. It's always nice to have at least one good tank with your light tanks, which can sort of sit back and let the other tanks be bait, while it does serious amount of damage to heavy units. Now, you forgot about those Spadochronier jet earlier, right? Well, here they are trying to snipe an M577 CPC. Just wait though. Okay, they fired one rocket. Let's get them really close. Or let's fire another rocket. No damage done yet. All of the rockets have missed so far. Or maybe we'll fire another one. No, maybe not at all. Now these Spadochronier jet have only an accuracy of 4. But seriously? How did they not kill that? That was so frustrating. I was just like, how did he get away with this? And then he reacts by sending VABs, the overpowered mofos, straight towards me, peppering me down and causing both squads to rout eventually. Now I was quite annoyed. So at this point I was telling Letark to go and attack his Chaparrals with his UAZ faggots and his UAZ SPGs, so that I could use my Havocs more effectively to go round and kill this thing, because this thing needed to die. It had annoyed me, and I can't get past these Chaparrals, so if he took them out then it would make it a lot easier. But instead of waiting, I basically just take the Havocs round the outside of the radius. The radius for these Chaparrals is probably up to about these forests, and therefore I take them well wide of that and allow Letark to keep attacking. Now, what I was quite annoyed about at this point was how he didn't stop his faggots. Now, I know that the Chaparrals are driving away, but he doesn't keep them at max range. And because he kind of forgets to... I don't know really what he was going through his mind, but at that point, what the sensible thing would have been to pull them back. He's forced their Chaparrals back, and that's what I originally wanted him to do by pushing forwards. But because he's continued to go forwards, he's actually lost a lot of his units to these Bradleys, which have very effective autocannons and ITOs. So that's not great. Anyway, he takes advantage of this situation by pushing forwards his anti-rush units. And another SPW-40B rushes straight into the town, revealing a lot of his HGM units. The original idea for that was to look for his command vehicle, but his Chaparrals are quick to react, and luckily with a few misses he only managed to get one shot onto my Havoc, leaving it burning in midair. So both of them I retire back to the base to reload and refuel. Now, it's time for Letark to do his thing, but unfortunately the rocket artillery stuns all of his units in that rush. Both of those Bradleys got taken out, so that was a bonus. And we've still got good sight into Gregory. Now, at this point I'm kind of a bit wary of what to do. We're in a bit of a predicament. We are winning by 2,158 points to 1,522 points, but I don't necessarily have a lot of units. I have my couple of Havocs, but what do I bring in next? a couple of T-80Us, of course. I have been stacking a lot of points, and I really felt, because the Tark's got all of these light tanks, that he could really use some heavy tank support. Now, you're probably wondering why they're driving down on the left side of the map, if I'm going to support them. Well, I didn't want the enemy to know about them. That was the main reason. And therefore, I pushed the T-80Us up to around these bushes here, ready to push towards Gregory. And you'll see just how effective that was once I get the chance. So losing the recon onto their command armor, I needed to replace it with something. So what I did was I pulled my MI9 round past their AA and luckily revealed it with the MI9. Now his command armor's in the open now, so I've got a perfect shot to try and snipe it. And what do? I snipe it. Of course I do. 220 points on the table. Lost his foothold in Fedor, doesn't get his chaparrals forward in time, and he's just lost all of that stuff there. Now, just to really make sure what he's got here, I push forwards a couple of wasted PTRs from these igloos and this set of igloos down here. Just push them straight forwards into his units to really give us the intel we need to attack the middle sector. I do reveal that he has an Apache, these flak panzers, racked Jagenpanzers, and the M151A1 command is still spotted by this really well placed UAZ on the right here. Now this is amazing, like look how close that is to the enemy, but it hasn't been spotted. That is what these little jeeps are really good for. They're so small that they just don't get spotted. So anyway, with that we're kind of waiting for our opportunity to attack. My 280Us are up, and now I'm bringing in an extra book, another fully vetted one to support my push. These two Kolos are going to be their resupply. Now eventually they do find that recon because of their 2E rep, but that gave us a great amount of intel for most of the game, and it's a unit that only costs 30 points, so it's definitely worth taking. Now I wasn't sure throughout the game why the enemy was using these Rakuten Jagdpanzers, because, well, they're really inaccurate. If you don't vet them, which he didn't, they only have an accuracy of 3, and that's terrible. It's abysmal. It's like, I think like a 5% hit chance at like max range. It's pointless. I think at 10 accuracy you get 50% chance to hit at max range, and I think every one, so they would have about 15% chance of hitting from max range, which is not good enough, not for an 80GM unit. What is good about these ones though is that they upgrade to be the Jaguar 2s, and they're good. They're good. You want them. Jaguar 2s on your deck in the NATO side are actually quite good. But anyway, wasn't too concerned about them, so I just moved my book straight up the road and try and get it into this forest here, ready for the attack. And with that I move up my MI9 just to get a better view on the battlefield. But I've also got these two Mi-24Ds on the right, and you're probably wondering why they're flying straight into the enemy, especially these Chaparrals sitting right here. Well, I'll have you know that this was actually completely unintentional. Because I placed them on the battlefield too far to this reinforcement point, I kind of forgot about them. I've got to be honest. I brought them in just to really help with the attack once we got started, and I forgot about them. They just flew straight into the enemy. I was like, oh crap, and by the time I'd realised, it was too late. So that's one thing you have to be really careful of in this game. When you're deploying units, make sure you deploy it closest to the place you want to bring it in from, because otherwise it will come in somewhere completely off the map and you're going to be like, what the fuck? And unfortunately, that's what happened to me. Now, he does try and bring in a couple of Blackhawks now with, I'm not sure who that was on the enemy team, Mr. Dukes, the level 100 guy, brings in a couple of Blackhawks with Chasseur for Masse. I've never seen that done before. Like, I know he's got the extra Blackhawks from the Delta Force, and he's therefore loaded them with Chasseur for Masse from probably just VABs. But what really confused me was, like, when that actually happened in the battle, I was like, hang on, are those Chasseur for Masse? I was expecting like Delta Force to drop out or something really annoying, but they didn't. And my book managed to just shoot down both of them. Unfortunately, one of the Chasseur for Masse squads gets out alive and actually destroys one of my Igla squads with like 3 men left. Now, you probably thought that said 2, but how squads work in this is that they have 10 on their health. Now, the number next to their name is how many guys they have left, and then that ticks down until they have no number at all, and then that's when they have like 1 man left. It's really confusing, and I don't know why it does it. I don't know, like say these 2 Igla squads here, they have 10, right? And that's clearly 10 men, right? But when they die, and they get around to around 1 man, say, and there's like 1 squad left, what will happen is it'll go down to 2, and then it'll go to nothing. Like, the number will disappear. And it's like, why? Why does it do that? Why don't you just say 1, and then they die? It's really confusing. Anyway, the assault's begun. And I've moved forward with both my T-80Us, one on the right, one on the left. The reason you do that with these tanks is really to flank the enemy. They've both got front-facing armour. They've just got 2 angles of attack. So this can potentially hit these Bradleys in the side armour. Now, they do get a shot from their M2A1 Bradleys onto my T-80U. Fortunately, I sort of thought ahead, and I do have Colossus to help repair this as the battle's ongoing. Now, I do get both of them into cannon range eventually, but one is currently firing ATGMs with the Colos resupplying it, and the T-80U on the right is firing its cannon directly at these ATGM Bradleys. Now I bring in a couple of Topazes with Motoshoki in them to try and take care of these Chasseur for Masse, but I don't believe I do, because the Chasseur for Masse, 1 man manages to kill 5 of them. He kills my whole squad. 1 guy kills my whole squad. Anyway, in response, the enemy fires a rocket barrage straight towards my resupply vehicles and my T-80U. Luckily, I managed to get my fully vetted book out of there, and both my Colosses unfortunately get routed because of it. Luckily though, by now, I've taken out all his Bradleys and his Chaparrals with the cannons from the T-80Us, and now I'm advancing straight onto his Raketen Jagdpanzers. And you'll see I make very, very short work of them because he doesn't bring them back. Anyway, with all this howitzer arty I was talking about earlier, you can see if I go into the neutral's perspective, he has so many arty units, but he always uses them wrong, and they always miss because of it. They just look. It's just like, okay, why didn't you just retarget them? Yeah, he got a nice shot there, kind of, onto my Colosses, but it wasn't as effective as it could have been had he actually hit my T-80Us. But because I preemptively moved my tanks, I knew he was going to arty me, and that didn't really work out for him. And yeah. Anyway, I was pretty quick to spot these extra paratroopers coming back on the right. And what was terrible about this was that I was like, I really wanted Letark to move his UAC quickly, because these paratroopers have seen everything. They've literally revealed the whole area. He's already artying it, the enemy is. So it's pretty obvious that he's gonna get his other arty, possibly his rocket arty, to fire at it. And you'll see soon enough that that's exactly what he does. So he's used these paratroopers, basically, it's one of the stragglers from the original rush, to sort of just scout the area. And it was a really good idea to do, but I moved my Havoc forwards to try and attack and finish off this paratrooper unit, but seeing all this rocket arty in, I'm just trying to get out of here. My Havoc is so lucky at this point, but unfortunately rocket arty lands straight onto this fleeing UAZ and boom goes 200 points. Now if he'd moved that a lot sooner, when I posted the original defense beacon, we would have got away with that easily, but unfortunately, because he wasn't really paying attention at the time, that didn't happen. So I would say it's very important to keep the communication up with your enemies. With your teammates. Now once again, if I push another Topaz APC to kill this Chateau FAMAS unit, but again he destroys my APC on his own and kills the whole squad of Motors Chelsea. What the fuck's that about? Look, this one guy, I'm not even kidding, one measly guy has done all of that. HGM on his back, fully vetted. Such a badass. Right. Anyway, so yeah, we're doing pretty well. 3,216 points to 2,293. I've got my couple of Havocs left still. I've got my couple of T-ATUs, which have now retreated back to these forests after I killed the rest of those Rakuten Jagdpanzers, and my book is also sitting back in the forest here. We're pretty much waiting for them to make their move. It's their move now. We've pushed the advantage, and now we're waiting for them to try and take it back. We continue to rocket arty us and howitzer arty us on the right near Eleanor, but to no avail really. I've got 4 Colosses. I don't forget about these ones though, but they are driving straight through arty, but I decided to take the risk. They're not very accurate. But watch this. As my Colosses go right through the middle of this forest here, they get smacked in the face by arty. And a couple of them come out burned. Unfortunate for them. Now, they do make it to their original location. With my FOB out of resources, they're basically coming over to this forest to resupply these units. I'm also pushing a Coloss further up towards these Iglas to resupply them, and my MI9 is basically trying to check for that Chateau FAMAS squad that's still around, because I'm really not sure if I've killed it yet, and therefore I just decide to get one of my T-ATUs, why not, and push it towards it. On the right, however, near the reinforcement point, Killer Eppin brings in 5 Black Hawks. And what happens is they fly straight over a bunch of AA, a Tunguska and 2 ZSUs. Basically most of them get shot down, and the Delta Force get destroyed very quickly once they are on the ground. The ones that don't get destroyed in the helicopter land with basically no men left. All of the Black Hawks are just slowly dying. And with the help of the cannon from this BRM, get another shot onto this Delta Force here. We've got rocket arty coming in. Fortunately, Lieutenant Tuzak come in and actually gets it out of there very, very swiftly, which was a good move. And he manages to get it away. But now we're left with only needing 50 points. And I want to end this game. I'm like, we deserve to win. We played against a level 100 and a level 15, I think it was. And we're doing well. And I'm really, really excited. I'm like, oh, we got to win. We got to win. So I'm going to attack these 2 units. I'm going to destroy this captured URL and the Delta Force that were there. So I've got 2 Havoc split up going to either. Now, what I didn't realise about my Havoc here is it's actually running really low on fuel. And you see, just as it gets close, it runs out of fuel. And look, has to emergency land And where were the Delta Force? Like here? I was like, oh shit! Defense beacon, help me! If the Delta Force had come anywhere near that, they would have just destroyed it. And I would have lost 165 points to infantry. And it's just ridiculous. So I'm really worried. Really, really worried. But what can I do? There's not much I can do. I don't have any air resupply on my deck. I have just the Colossus really. And yeah, I'm pretty stuffed. All of my other units are empty, so I'm like, please move your Mi-26 to go and resupply my Havoc. It needs help. But no, what do I do instead? I push forward a Havoc, and boom! Sniping a M8 AGS straight in the ass. And there you go, guys. 33-minute game. Me and Letark, level 60 and level 34, kill a level 100 and a level 15. This Mr. Dukes guy is very good. He actually got to, I think, round 6, he said, of the Wargame Cup. So he's a decent guy. And I'm very, very chuffed with how well Letark did on my side. I'm glad to have played with him, and I thank him for, well, basically playing with me once I asked him. If you'd like to play with me, don't hesitate to get in touch on Steam and whatever, and if I do play, I will try and inform you on either my Steam group or something like that. But you'll need to know exactly on the time, because I'm a bit spontaneous of when I want to play a random game of Wargames, so there's no specific time that I'll be playing, which is unfortunate. But anyway, guys, if you do get in touch, that should be fine. Anyway, yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this one. One of my first replays in a long time. Tried to get in the battle a few times. I hope you've enjoyed it, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.